it's Andrea from WellAndrea, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about how to create an exercise and movement practice that lasts for decades, and why it is important that if we want to create a sustainable movement practice, to be okay with periods of times when we can move and exercise less. And some of these periods may be quite long. And, I think recognizing and acknowledging that we will all have injuries if we move or not. We will all get sick. And there will be times in our lives when it just will be much harder or impossible to move as much as we would like to. I have dealt with this quite a bit over the last couple of years, especially this year. I've had an injury the entire year, one part of my body or another, and it has been really frustrating. I have not always done what was in my best interest. And some of this comes, I think, from the messaging that we constantly hear that, if we stop moving, that we have immediate loss of strength and power and endurance and bone density and muscle mass and all the things, right? And I think it can be very scary. And I think in many people it can lead to not allowing our bodies to heal when they need to heal. And in the long run, we really are not doing ourselves any favors. I was recently talking to a friend who just turned 50, and her mom is, I believe, 81 or 82. And she is an 80-something-year-old that I want to be like when I am that age. The first thing that stands out about her is that she moves like a much younger person, really somebody decades younger. She moves with ease, she moves confidently, she moves joyfully. And I think that is what you first see when you meet her. She's very active, she hikes, she plays tennis, she plays pickleball, and she lifts weights, which is actually a newer thing for her. Not too new, but she started sometime, in her early 70s maybe. So for a while now, but it wasn't something she has done her entire life. And when I talked to my friend, I was saying, your mom is so amazing. And a lot of the research that I had read really said that when people, stay that fit, that it's usually, or it's oftentimes, because they really haven't had long periods of time when they didn't work out. And so I asked her if that was the case for her mom, and she said, not really. I mean, she had at least one injury, and that was she had back surgery when my friend was in high school. So her mom was in her 40s, 50s, something like that. And she said, she remembers her mom not really being able to do much for an entire year. She had been very active at the time. She had played tennis and swam, and I think she was maybe doing some running. But her mom, wasn't able to do anything for a year, but she was extremely consistent in doing her physical therapy exercises at home. Every single day on the floor, like 3 times a day. And she was super consistent, and she really gave her body the time to heal, but she also expected to get back to her exercises. She always talked, in that sense, like, when I can do this again, or when I'm back in the pool, when I'm back doing this and that. So I think that is a great lesson that I know for myself I can learn so much from, because I, tend to catastrophize a little bit. I try to do too much too soon, and I think that is just not helpful. The interesting thing also was once I talked a little bit more with my friend, she realized her mom had actually had numerous other pretty serious injuries and times away from movement. A lot of this happened once my friend left for college and then moved abroad, but her mom had a shoulder injury that required surgery. She had a knee injury, a torn ligament that required surgery, and she also really has dealt with tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, things like that. So not a person that didn't have breaks, right? But from what it sounds like, really someone who took the recovery seriously, took ownership of the recovery, did the exercises, and really kept a very positive outlook in terms of the belief that she will get back to wherever she was before. And I think we can learn so much from that, right? Because I think this is a great example that, over 8 decades, there will be multiple times potentially where you will be not exercising, maybe at all, right? Or very minimally. Her back injury was an entire year of recovery. And, she got back to being active, being joyful, moving so well, right? And so I want you to think about that for your own life. When things hurt, when you are injured, when you're sick, give your body the time to recover, right? Do what you can, right? If you have exercises you're supposed to do, or if there are things you can do yourself, definitely don't sit down and don't do anything. But at the same time, be patient and be optimistic. And, that way we will maximize our chances to move and exercise for many decades. Have a great day. Keep moving, but also be realistic. Listen to your body. Allow it to heal when it needs to. Bye now.